Hi there, my name's Alistair Kennedy and I'm the Sociable Social Worker, and I give practical advice to social workers, social work students and newly qualified social workers. And in this video we're going to look at court reports and how you can write the best court report ever. So I've been a social worker for many years. I've worked in youth justice, I've worked in probation, and I can't go into all the details of how to write a court report for every facet of social work. So what I'm going to do is give you a generalised view on what you should put in court reports, and I hope this helps. You should also watch my video on how to survive court, because this will go along with this video as well. Okay, let's get into it. So top tip number 1. Court is adversarial, so don't write anything that you can't back up with evidence, and also don't write passively, so you don't say things like she intimated or I assume or apparently, and avoid words like it's clearly this or it's obvious this, because it's not obvious to the court, it's not obvious to the lawyers who are dealing with it. It's only been obvious to you and the client that you've been working with, so you need to be clear in the vocabulary that you use. Also, don't generalise in your report using words like stable, compliant, they were resistant to change. Engagement is overly used in child protection and is a kind of very subjective way of writing, as the client may feel engaged, but you weren't clear on what the expected engagement was, so you need to be clear on what you're saying. And also don't use acronyms. Judges, the children's panel in Scotland don't like acronyms. As you can imagine, they might not know what the acronym stands for, and if someone comes to look at their file 20 years from now, are they going to know what that acronym meant? So don't use acronyms. Be specific, and what I mean by that is if you find a client that you've been working with is unsteady on their feet or is acting erratically, be specific about that behaviour, but don't go into any ways of saying, well, they were using drugs or they could have been using alcohol. You're not a drug and alcohol expert, you're a social worker, so just write what you see, don't speculate, and if you need help, get access to drug and alcohol experts who can come and help you with that client. It's really important that you never speculate. Top tip number 3, don't show off and use words that you would never use in normal language, like intimated or contemporaneous. These are the kind of words that we try to, as social workers, try and show off a little bit. It's not impressing anyone, it's not impressing the lawyers, it's not impressing the people who are actually reading the reports. So try and not use the jargon. What I would suggest is find your own style, and as I said, words like contemporaneous might not be your style, so you'll come across as pretentious. Top tip number 4, letters, reports, court reports should all be succinct. Say what you mean what you say, balance out your views with the pros and cons, evidence issues, evidence patterns. Evidence client engagement is key, and the barriers to client engagement, the barriers added and the outcomes that you've achieved when you've been working with that client, really important. Top tip number 5, when you make your recommendations, and this is particularly for child protection cases and often probation or youth justice cases or criminal justice cases, you need to be specific about the scope of the work that you're recommending and the intervention. You need to specify what services are not being nominated and why you're using the appropriate service. You need to be realistic, and you need to be, is this actually going to work for the client? Is it in the local area? Are they going to succeed? And have they used this service before? And the frequency, outline the frequency of the contact and crucially their attendance and if they'll be able to make it. And lastly, timescales. Comment on when the service could start and its duration, and actually if it's worked before, have you used it before with certain client bases? What is the outcome? Is it a generalised outcome you're looking for, or is it more specialised? Will your plan crucially work? Do you think the client will engage, and how will you support it? And what do you need? What do you need as a social worker to make it work? And my last top tip, which I think is probably top tip number 7, is always check your work. Get someone else in the team to check your work. Spell check's fine, but always get someone just to check over that grammar. You know, you might be asked to stand up in court and read out your report, so it's clear that that report doesn't have any spelling mistakes. I once had a colleague who actually pasted and copied certain portions of a child protection report and then subsequently a criminal justice report. He actually got summoned in front of the sheriff to speak about why all these reports had different names in it, and basically he pasted and cutted. And he was lucky at that point that there was no regulatory body, or he would, if it was Social Work England today, he would have probably lost his job. So there you go, there you have it, my top tips for writing a court report. Whatever court you're writing for, best of luck, I hope it goes well. Let me know in the comments box if this video was useful. If you liked it, ring the little bell for notifications, ding-a-ling-a-ling, and press that like button. It helps an awful lot. Okay, I'll see you next time.